Greetings, tasty liquor lovers, and welcome to another episode of SwillinGrog's Wonderful World of Beer. Apologies for my absence of late, but to be honest, I haven't had much motivation to review beer. Anyhow, what I have for you today is a new brew that has just been unleashed on the Australian market, Red's Apple Ale, which is 4% alcohol by volume, and it's brewed and bottled by Carlton and United Breweries in Australia. Now, Red's Apple Ale was first introduced in South Africa back in 1996. There it was, well still is, 4.5% alcohol by volume. And in 2012 it was unleashed on the American market where it's 5% ABV. So it appears that Australia's got the lowest ABV version of Reds. Anyhow, it seems to have emerged on the scene here in Australia with very little fanfare. So here I am to make an assessment of it. So I've got my Pilsner glass here, and I'll crack off the cap. It's a twist top, of course, and give it a pour out into the glass. All right. Okay, so let's make an assessment of its appearance as we always do. Well, I must say firstly, it looks very effervescent. It's a very clear golden colour, much like apple juice, and it's got just bang on. Well, it's dissipating quite quickly, but I think when I poured it, it had just a little over 2 fingers of fluffy, bright white head. Okay, so on to the aroma. Okay. Well, I'm picking up a very faint smell of grain there, and an even fainter smell of apple juice, as one would expect, and a little bit of citrus as well, interestingly enough. Alright, so we've talked about the appearance and we've talked about the aroma, so that could only mean that it's time for the taste test, folks. So cheers to you all. Let's dive in. Okay, it is quite sweet. Up front, I'm definitely getting the taste of, sweet grains. There's definitely a noticeable presence of barley malt there. Now, the finish is relatively dry, and there's a residual taste of apple that definitely lingers in the palate. That's very nice, in fact. Taste-wise, this is pretty goddamn delicious. To be quite blunt, I must have another gulp. Well, I gotta say, it's yeah, very crisp, clean, and refreshing. And yeah, the apple taste is only, very subtle. I guess it's quite comparable to Miller Chill, that's got that lime taste. I believe that when they brew Red's Apple Ale, they actually add apple juice concentrate during the filtration process. So, it's still a beer. It's not to be confused with a cider. It's definitely a beer. And I think if they're going for that, that demographic that, doesn't like beer but prefers cider, I think they'll perhaps fail, because I think, if you give it to one of those people, they're going to go, ooh, beer, yuck. Its drinkability is, of course, going to be astronomically high, and at 4% ABV, you can, session the crap out of it, let's face it. I gotta say, I prefer this to Miller Chill, and I think SABMiller have made a wise move introducing it on the Australian market. As long as, yeah, they obviously do a bit of advertising for it, it's definitely a product that needs to be pushed. Anyhow, it's time that I wrap this up. I think I've babbled way too long. So I'll have one final gulp and give it a score out of 10. All right. Well, all in all, it's a very decent brew. There's nothing offensive about it flavor-wise. It's going to be a huge hit, particularly in the summer, when you're having a party or a barbecue. So, yeah, it's, nothing mind-blowing, but it's very hard to fault. So I'd be happy to give it a solid 8 out of 10. So there you go, folks. 8 out of 10 for Red's Apple Ale. So do give it a try. Thank you for joining me once again for another episode of SwillinGrog's Wonderful World of Beer. Hopefully, I'll return soon with another. But until then, fare thee well, all.